Hey everybody, Mr. Rubo here again. Today we're going to talk about graphing lines, just a review of it. So first, let's talk about the three forms of our linear equations that we can see. So the first, the one that everyone's always pretty good with, is slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. Um, we know m is the slope, b is the y-intercept. That's why it's called slope-intercept form. You'll notice a lot of times in math, the person who founded the equation or whatever usually names it after what it does. We're pretty precise about that. All right. Standard form, you can write it using different letters, but it's going to be ax plus by equals c. Um, and then the last one is point slope form. For this one, we have a point, which we'll say is x1, y1, and then the slope, which is m. So it'll be y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. All right. So these are your three forms. Depending on which form it's in, you may want to find different things, or you may want to do different things to graph them. So let's just go ahead and get an example of each. I don't know why I did that, but whatever. So let's just say we have y equals, I don't know, let's go 1/2 x minus 3. So for slope-intercept form, I think it's probably the easiest one of the three to graph, to plot, because it's pretty straightforward. So usually you want to identify your b value, so the thing without the x, and not the y, obviously. So we get minus 3, so that's going to be our y-intercept. So let me just throw a few tick marks on here just to have it. So now let's go ahead and plot that point. So there, our y-intercept is 3. Then you identify your slope. And remember, just in the last video, slope is rise over run. So that means we're going to go up 1 over 2, plot another point. Nice thing with lines, with linear equations, is you only need 2 points, right? And then you just connect it in a straight line. Especially if you're freehanding and not necessarily using a straight edge to connect, you might want more points, just so that way it's a little easier to draw a straight line since I'm not using one. I could use this tool, but I don't feel like it because I don't. So I'm going to go ahead and just do another point. So I'm going to rise 1 again, run 2, 10, that was a decent point, and there are 3 points, and now yeah, there is your slope intercept. Nice and easy. Like I said, it's the one that most people like. So that's one of the things too, is depending on which form it's in, you can always put it into a different form. So especially when it comes to like standard, you might want to just put it in y equals, put it in slope intercept form, and graph it. Nothing wrong with that. It's totally fine. So now let's talk about standard. You could put in slope intercept form, or something that is fairly easy to find are the x and y intercepts. So let's go ahead and just come up with, I'll do a pretty simple one. All right. So the reason why I say the x and y intercepts are pretty simple to find is the thing to remember is with the x-intercept, if we think about the coordinate points, so let me just make this. The x-intercept, the coordinate point for y, the y coordinate, I should say, is always going to be 0. So if I substitute 0 in for y, I'm going to get my x. So 3x plus 2 times 0, which is 0, equals 6. So here, x equals 2, which right there is my y-intercept. Now, x-intercept. Now for the y-intercept, though, doesn't matter where it's at, we know that the x-coordinate is going to be 0. So 3 times 0 is 0. We left with 2y equals 6. Divide by 2, and we get y equals 3. And hey, look at that. We now have 2 points, and finding another point, you could substitute in different values, but it's going to be a little bit more work. So once again, just try to draw a, wow, I'm really bad at drawing straight lines today. So let me just undo a little bit. And we're going to pretend I can draw. Wow, that was really bad. So I'm going to cheat. And look at that. Oh man, that's a straight line right there. Yeah, whatever. So there we go. There is that graphic of the standard form. Okay. Now, last for our linear functions, we have point slope form. So with point slope form, it's going to look something like, ooh, I almost put M. I didn't want an M there. Let's go, I don't know, 2x minus, let's go plus 3. So here, similar to slope-intercept form, you just identify certain things. So instead of identifying the y-intercept, we are going to identify the coordinate point that's given. So the y goes with the y, the x is with the x, but it's the opposite. So x plus 3, the coordinate point would be negative 3. This one, y minus 3, the y coordinate would be positive 3. So very similar to how we started with the y-intercept here, we're actually going to start with this coordinate point. So negative 3, 3, and we're going to go ahead and plot that down. Okay. Once you do that, now guess what? It's just like slope-intercept form. You look at your slope and you follow rise over run. So we're going to go up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, and you could go another up 2 over 1 if you have those tick marks, or you can even go down 2 to the left 1 if you want to go the other way. All right. And then once you have enough points, you try to connect them as best as you can in a straight line, and there you go. Okay. So now the last couple things I'm going to talk about in this video are a couple special lines. Now, really the first one's not technically special. It's actually in slope-intercept form or point slope form, but it's when you have something like y equals 3. Okay. This is in slope-intercept form. So it's in y equals mx plus b form, right? It's just our m in this case is 0. So if you remember from the last video, when our slope is 0, we have a horizontal line. So this is the case where it doesn't matter what our x is, we could substitute in anything for x, and we will always get y equals 3. So at 0, at x equals 0, we still get 3. At x equals 1,000, we still get 3. At x equals negative 127, still get 3. So that's why this becomes a horizontal line. And once again, it's technically in slope-intercept form, but we would just say this is a horizontal line. And then the last special one is the x equals some number. So for this one, it's not in either any of the forms because all the forms have to have a y in them. They're functions. This is the one special case where our linear graph is not going to be a function, and that's because in this case it's very similar to this one. It doesn't matter what my y values are. My x is always going to equal 4. So when y is 0, x is 4. When y is 1,000, x is 4. When y is negative 3, x is 4. So it doesn't matter what y is. We're going to have just a vertical line. Doesn't matter what y is, sorry. X is always going to be 4. Okay? So we're going to have a vertical line there, and that would be our last type of linear equation that we would see. All right. So hopefully you enjoyed the video, and have a good day.